We have the backstage details behind the AEW firing of CM Punk, but first, could WWE be set to hijack AEW's television deal? Recent announcements would confirm that in late 2024, Friday Night SmackDown will be returning to the USA Network, bringing an end to the Blue Brand's current stint on Fox, whilst NXT will be moving to the CW from the USA Network, beginning a new era for both shows. Whilst 2 new television deals have been agreed already, WWE have still yet to announce a future home for Monday Night Raw, something they are currently in negotiations for. According to a fresh report from WrestleWorld, there are 3 top networks currently in the running to secure Raw, with one of those being Warner Bros. Discovery, the parent company of TBS and TNT, the current homes of AEW Television. In a report that will be of concern to AEW fans, WrestleWorld would write, "We're being told that Raw's next TV deal has either been completed or extremely close to being completed, and it's expected to be announced before January 2024. Last we heard, the top 3 bidders in order for the rights are Warner Bros. Discovery, looking at placing the show on TBS or TNT, Disney, looking to place the show on FX, Amazon, looking to place the show on their Prime streaming service. Also in the running as a distant 4th, last we heard, was NBC Universal, to possibly retain the rights for either USA Network or Sci-Fi." WrestleWorld aren't the only outlets who have confirmed this report to be true, as Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer would be tagged in the post asking for his thoughts, with him adding that the announcement is expected soon. While some signs point towards Warner being potentially interested in bringing Monday Night Raw to their portfolio, which would almost certainly be an exclusive deal, leaving AEW without a partnership with the network, we should note that Andrew Zarian of the Mat Men podcast, somebody known for his direct contacts in WBD, has claimed to have not heard anything in this regard, and he would state, "I personally have not heard of Raw going to a WBD property. I never claim to know everything, just what's said to me. In this case, I have not been told anything about Raw going to WBD." In any case, we do know that Triple H was absent from this week's taping of Monday Night Raw, leaving Bruce Pritchard in charge of the show, with PW Insider revealing that this was because he and Nick Khan had flown out to Los Angeles in order to work on securing a media rights deal for the Red Brand. As Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics would note on X, the Disney HQ, Amazon Studios, as well as the office of Warner Discovery's David Zaslav are all in the LA area. Whilst for now we can take Andrew Zarian's word that Warner are not looking to shelve AEW for Raw, these kind of deals can happen very quickly, and WWE no doubt would be incentivized to persuade them to change their mind due to this leaving their competition in a very awkward spot. We do know that the Warner executive that originally agreed with Tony Khan to host AEW on TNT before the company started is no longer with the network, and we also know that WWE is more advertiser friendly, which could give them an advantage. We also know that David Zaslav is a big fan of CM Punk and commissioned him his own show, Collision, during his time in AEW, and he's of course just landed in WWE, appearing on Raw. As for alternatives as to where AEW could land, it's possible that they could strike a deal with whichever networks have interest in Raw, but are unsuccessful. With that said, while SmackDown is set to leave Fox, it appears they're no longer interested in wrestling programming, meaning they can likely be ruled out entirely. And next, we have the latest on the potential identity of the Devil in AEW. Now let's turn our attention to last night's episode of AEW Dynamite, where World Champion MJF would speak to fans ahead of his title defense against Samoa Joe at the end of December at World's End, with him paying respects to his upcoming challenger. He would note that he's a fan of Joe and has followed him throughout his career in TNA wrestling, before adding that his talents weren't fully recognized and he was not afforded the opportunity to be a world champion in WWE. Max would state that he wants to add the Samoan submission machine to the list of many great names that he's defeated in the company, name-dropping Chris Jericho, Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega, and even WWE's Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. When the promo came to an end, Max would then be interrupted by a lights out in the arena, this before the Devil's henchman came out to attack him, before Samoa Joe made the save. The Devil himself would appear on the big screen before text was shown in order to issue a challenge to Max and Joe for next week on Dynamite, with 2 of the Devil's henchmen set to take them on in tag team action. The promo followed a claim on social media from MJF, with him declaring that he wants to restore the feeling back in AEW, and he would write, I didn't sleep a wink, in a shit ton of pain, and I can't get comfortable. But it's Wednesday, we got a show to put on. I hear it all, I read it all, I see it all. I'm wide awake in more ways than one. Let's restore the feeling. #AEW Dynamite. However, some of MJF's colleagues have seemingly taken issue with this claim, including the absent Britt Baker, who would make a post to reveal her unhappiness with her position in the company, and she would write, "Tonight's AEW Dynamite, MJF live promo time 7 minutes, Christian Cage live promo time 10 minutes, all of 2023 AEW Dynamite, Britt Baker live promo time 0 minutes. Interestingly, Britt would then go on to like a tweet that was in response to MJF's original post about restoring the feeling. This when a user named Unprotected Chairshot would write, "You have almost single-handedly destroyed the feeling, LOL." Not only did Baker like this tweet, but it also received approval from fellow AEW originals Jack Perry, Sammy Guevara, and Kip Sabian. Could this potentially be linked to the ongoing storyline involving the Devil, or is this a clue of more backstage drama in the company? In any case, we potentially have another clue as to the identity of one of the masked men that appeared on Dynamite last night, as when Wardlow appeared shortly after for his match, his hair was a little on the messy side, perhaps a sign that he was wearing a balaclava shortly before his entrance. Next up, a huge AEW title match has been announced. This past Saturday night on AEW Collision, Adam Copeland would issue a challenge to former best friend and current TNT champion Christian Cage, with him looking for a title shot next week on Dynamite in their home country of Canada. Cage would address the challenge on last night's episode of Dynamite, with him proposing to bury the hatchet between the two men, and instead, he wants to team up one more time. Of course, this was all a ruse, however, as Christian would then attempt to strike the Rated R superstar with his title belt, only to be stopped by a low blow that saw him drop to his knees. Copeland would then state that he isn't going to fall for that one, before telling him to go fuck himself, a callback to a previous promo where Cage rejected Copeland's advances to reunite as a tag team. The match has officially been confirmed ahead of next week's episode of AEW Dynamite live from Montreal, with fans set for a pay-per-view level match on TBS. And next, an injured top star has resumed in-ring training. Mercedes Moné would make the jump from WWE to New Japan Pro-Wrestling in January, this after allowing her WWE contract to expire. After a short reign with the IWGP Women's Championship, the former Sasha Banks would advance to the finals for the first ever New Japan Strong Women's Championship in May, although she would be injured mid-match, having not been seen in the ring since. It appears that the CEO is one step closer to returning to action, as last night she would post a video montage of her training at the Hybrid Wrestling School in San Antonio, Texas, leading to speculation on where she may show up. Mercedes appears to be on the free agency market after comments from Rocky Romero seemingly confirmed that she was no longer under contract with NJPW, with AEW and WWE both potential options going forward. Whilst Tony Khan has been open about his desire to work with Moné in the future following her appearance in the crowd at All in London, WWE have shown that they're willing to work with talent that they've had issues with in the past. But where do you think Mercedes Moné or Sasha Banks will turn up next? Let me know in the comments down below. Next up, we have the latest on the WWE plans for CM Punk. This past weekend, CM Punk would make a shock return to WWE at the Survivor Series in Chicago. This after weeks of speculation of a hometown appearance was played down by every WWE source and reporter. Following the return, fans would wonder what is next for the Second City Saint, amidst rumors that he's entering a feud with Seth Rollins in the near future, somebody who was believed to have legit heat with the returning star. Sports Illustrated would reveal this week that the current plan for Punk, in the short term at least, is for him to feud with Seth Rollins, something that was kickstarted by Seth's live reaction to Punk's WWE return, albeit something that wasn't shown on television. However, the reaction would go viral online due to fan footage capturing the moment, with it also being referenced by Punk himself during his promo on this week's episode of Monday Night Raw. The report adds that there are also plans for a future feud with current undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns lines at some stage. Something we recently pointed out may have been teased during Punk's Raw promo, with him making reference to a conversation that he had with a wise man prior to his original WWE exit, a clear nod to Paul Heyman. This does leave doubt as to who the Tribal Chief's title match will be against at WrestleMania come April, with expectations up until this point being that a rematch with Cody Rhodes is on the cards, or maybe even a match with The Rock. It'll be interesting to see how things play out in the coming months and whether Punk faces Rollins at the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania, or perhaps even both. And next, we have the backstage details behind the AEW firing of CM Punk. And speaking of CM Punk, the Second City Saint would recently find himself terminated from All Elite Wrestling following a series of backstage incidents, with a scuffle with Jack Perry and a reported lunge at Tony Khan at AEW All in London being the final straw. In the official announcement, Khan would reveal that whilst he made the final decision, he was advised by a disciplinary committee, and we now know the identities of that group. According to a fresh report from Fightful Select, current AEW star Bryan Danielson was one of the people to recommend the final decision, and they would write, "There was also one long-respected member of the AEW talent roster that was involved, in Bryan Danielson. When asking sources on the AEW roster about his inclusion, one called him an appropriate moral compass who exemplifies objectivity, and said that he effectively headed up and was the face of the disciplinary committee." Danielson was said to have spoken to the roster when addressing them about Punk's termination, and noted that the decision was a particularly hard one. He cited the positives that CM Punk brought and his long-standing friendship with Punk, but said that it was the decision that had to be made. The report followed a recent public post from Bryan that read, "The right thing is often the hardest thing to do. It won't always make the most money, it won't always be the most popular, but it's still the right thing." These being words that his late father passed on to him. Fightful would also reveal that this was something Danielson said during a talent meeting regarding the CM Punk situation. As well as Bryan, AEW General Counsel Chris Peck was also part of the three-person committee, along with an outside attorney. With all that said, it's worth noting that Ibu of Wrestle Purist, somebody with sources within the CM Punk camp, has revealed that Punk himself expected to be fired and that he isn't mad at Bryan over his involvement with the committee, and is seemingly understanding of his position. I suppose that considering CM Punk was reportedly screaming that he wanted to quit AEW at All In a way, Danielson has done his friend a favour in freeing him from an environment that he clearly wasn't enjoying. What the news does show is a lack of ability for Tony Khan to be authoritative with him making the decision via other people, with it certainly questionable that he would put an active wrestler and friend of Punk in such a position. We also saw something similar when Khan asked CM Punk to step in to speak with Jack Perry about a real glass spot, and we know how that turned out. Not only that, but after trusting Bryan with such a role, this somehow leaked to the media after the fact isn't exactly a great look, with leaks being the root cause of all of this mess to begin with. In any case, both parties have moved on, although we continue to hear leaks from AEW about CM Punk all these months later. And before you go, make sure you check out 10 facts that MJF doesn't want you to know.